Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Meg and Maddie Show. I mean, what a day yesterday. The College World Series storybook start. Meg, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You called the North Carolina game. You said it's not over till it's over, and it wasn't over until it was over. Vance Honeycutt.
I told you not to let him do that.
Why would you pitch to him?
I don't know.
That was a bad deal.
That's something that would keep you up at night.
Yeah.
So
He's going to think about that. That pitcher's going to think about that for a long time.
And then Tennessee's walk-off, also insane. They knew that they weren't going to ever give up without a fight.
No.
So I don't know if Florida State saw it coming. Both teams, there was a lot of defensive issues, I think, going on that made it
Three pitching changes.
Anyone's game.
Yeah,
But
3 pitching changes for Tennessee in 3 innings, and then just a lot of errors.
silly errors. But it's like, I understand the nerves are so high. Like, I'd be probably, for lack of a better word, shitting myself. So I can't. So I mean, you can't be mad at that. So luckily, everyone has another day. Fix what you can, calm the nerves. You've been out there before and you know what to expect.
Yeah. Day 1's over, on to day 2, and today we have North Carolina, or NC State and Kentucky, and then Florida.
And Virginia.
No,
Florida and
I have it right here. I'm like, girl.
Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas A&M. But today on the show, we have Coach Alex Hale with Chips Baseball. He's going to share all the things about his growing up in Omaha to playing in college to what he does now. We're excited to have him on.
Our first show was yesterday. So we'll be nice to you if you're nice to us.
All right, we are here with Coach Alex Hale, Omaha native. He is a coach, and he has a gym and trains a lot of athletes, a lot of baseball athletes, and one of them's playing in the World Series yesterday. They got the big win, and now they play Sunday again. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
So what high school did you go to?
Don't hold it against me. I went to Creighton Prep. I was a public school kid, and then my dad was from Texas, so he was like, kid down the street, goes to prep. He's going to Notre Dame to play football, so that's where you're going to go. I was like, okay, didn't know any better. Then get to like 8th grade, and I'm like, wait a second. All my friends are going to all these other schools. I'm like, okay. So it was a learning experience. We had theology classes and stuff like that, so that was an adventure.
So I go to Creighton. I was a public school kid through and through. I transferred to Creighton my junior year. I had to take theology and philosophy and all of that. I'm like I'm went to church growing up. I grew up in the church, but like that's just something different. If you were not in private school growing up and you get put into private school later on, Maddie was a private school girl.
I got paid in high school for doing the public schools theology kids homework for theology, so it worked out in my favor. But I always told my friends I could not physically imagine trying to learn half of these biblical names or any of that type of stuff. Like, it's so much information.
Yeah, like you think like, okay, I go to church and I got this, and then they're like, here's the stuff you should know on like the first day, and you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah,
that was
you're
an adventure.
In for a treat.
And none of it's like commonsensical. Like, it's not like things you can just like kind of wing it and
or guess on a test.
Yeah, you're not going to get it right.
Yeah.
So that was an adventure.
We're gonna get into like your bio and like your collegiate career and whatnot. But you came back to Omaha. Did you know that you wanted to come here and live here? Like, what was your thought process on staying in Omaha?
So actually, my sister went to Creighton. And so we had this conversation. I said, I want to go away so that I know what it's like to be away. And then when I come home, I'll value it and I'll be excited to come home. And I told her, I said, if you go away, then it'll be kind of the same. But if you stay here, you're always going to want to go. So she was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Big brother doesn't know anything. And so she ended up going to Creighton, and now she like travels the world, lives in Seattle, like is just hardly ever home. But I think she also has that kind of like travel bug. She loves to hike and do all those things. And I'm like, why? Why would you She's like, spent 4 days in the Grand Canyon. I'm like, okay, knock yourself out. But yeah, no, I always wanted to come home. I lived a lot of different places and got to experience different things. And it was the comforts of home, but also just the people. It's a big city, but it's kind of got that small town feel. Actually, pretty similar to like Boston. Like I got to live in Boston for a little bit, and that was the people were similar. Like no nonsense, kind of like down to earth, and that was a cool vibe. It's just a bigger version.
So I just watched the movie Black Mass with Johnny Depp. Have you seen that?
No.
It's about Whitey Bulger.
Okay.
And like he's like Southie mob member. And then he ends up working for the feds while he's still doing like his mob stuff, and turns in all of like his buddies and all the other mobs. And then he ends up getting caught for still doing his things, and then goes to jail. But I was wondering, because it's a really great movie, but I asked every person who's like spent time in Boston if they've seen it.
At no point did I know what you were going to say next in that story. So anyway.
I have family who'd been in the organized crime families, and I didn't believe that until we were talking about it at dinner. It's one of those things they like casually drop at dinner when you're an adult. Yeah. And my grandfather had been like, used to be a thing where they would bring all the produce in, and it'd get to Beatrice, and then the organized crime families would like, you'd have to pay the toll to get your stuff in, because otherwise you had to go all the way around, and the crops or the product would go bad. And so he was like here, and then a lot of times he'd be out in New York. And I guess at his funeral, there was like 300 like suited up guys with bowler hats on. Like, it was crazy. My mom was like, "This is kind of weird."
No, I have anytime I hear like certain last names, I'm always like, do you know something that I don't? You never know.
No, so my mom's last name
really
was
closeted.
Slatinsky.
See?
So it was,
do you think? I mean, you got the look. People might think you are.
I get. You look like somebody I know a lot. That's what I get.
We should probably confirm he is not part of the mob. Alex is not part of the mob.
No.
You have like the most like stereotypical baseball coach look, though.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
Okay. I don't know why it would be a bad thing, but
no, it's a look. It's a look for sure.
So you've coached now. Since you've been done playing, you got right into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So the new technologies like the pitch comm, the pitch clock, all of that. Have you integrated a lot of technology into your coaching?
Yeah, so we use we have like the earpiece systems that we use. The pitch comm thing, we've dabbled in. It's one of those where like, what do you need to do? Like, do we want to be changing the hat pieces out all the time? And so, but the earpiece was easy just for calling pitches and stuff. What's funny is now that we have all of that, then there's other things that, like the catchers with like being in a knee down stance, that tips pitches more than the signals did a lot of times. And so now we're going through that thing where it's like figuring out how to coach catchers up into like, okay, knowing when to do it, but also mixing it up. And it's there's always something. And there's always something to make it more complicated. But now with all the technology on the field, the big thing is it was like they wanted to come up with things to measure everything so that when they were explaining to somebody why they, couldn't play at a certain level or couldn't do something, it was like, well, fine, you don't want to listen to us, here's why. And so I think that's been good and bad. I think at certain levels, there's a overemphasis on like velocity all the time, like in your bullpens, in your, practices and your stuff. And it's like, that's one of those things where it doesn't give guys a break. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys get to college, and sometimes you'll see like a decline in their velocity because they're constantly being told they have to throw harder, constantly being told this is the mark that we need you to beat. And it's not like just get outs. And so, I think it's good and bad. I think, having them in facilities when guys are hitting can be helpful, but at the same time, if you have it like on the wall, like we don't put ours on the wall. And so, because we don't want guys hitting it and then looking. And so then they get to overswinging and they forget the whole objective is square up the ball. And so that's one of those things where it's good and bad. You have to kind of coach guys up on how to use it and how to make it effective for them. So that's one of the things I see going forward with all of it is like making sure guys are using it the right way. And when the launch angle stuff came out, that was a whole nother adventure. So there's constant evolution with all the analytics. It's like those guys. I know a lot of analysts, and they're like, you have to prove that what you're like, tracking and measuring is actually worth something. And so a lot of them will get really creative with like, okay, it may or may not be, but you can't prove it's not. And like nobody's going to go through the hassle of like trying to prove it's not. So it kind of like gets them by for a little bit until they figure out something.
And you use it like in a positive way of like presenting like good data to parents when you're trying to like get them to come to you for like your gyms and whatnot, right? What kind of information are you showing them in like a session when they're asking like, what do you have to prove that you're good at what you do?
So we have a Proteus that we use, which is it looks like a cannon kind of thing. It has like a arm that pulls back and it moves every direction. And that measures how their body moves. So the first day we get them, we map their whole body and how they move. So if they're more explosive or if they're stronger, and less explosive, then we won't focus it with a kid who's really strong on just trying to get stronger and stronger and stronger all the time. They'll get stronger, but we need to get them moving faster. And if a guy's really fast, we're going to focus on getting him a little stronger because that'll pay more dividends. We try to hit the lowest hanging fruit first. And the Proteus will map them out so it shows how balanced they are. So it'll go every muscle group, different colors.
That's crazy.
So that's the first thing we do. And then they warm up on it every day. They use it all the time. It's not like something we use like once in a while. It's like every day, first thing they do when they come in. And they can do their arm care. They can do all that stuff on it. That gives us an idea of what to do when we go in the weight room. So it's not like you're lifting Coach Hale's way. It's like, no, we're going to figure out what you need. And so that's what guys really like. That's
super cool. I had no idea that those things even existed.
So yeah, so we use that. And then we have radar guns. We have TrackMan. We have 5 iPads that we use. We have like video replay and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
We try to keep tabs on how much they throw, the intensity they throw, the volume, because otherwise they come in and just try to light up a radar gun. And so
yeah.
So how do you incorporate your own playing experiences into your coaching?
I think I learned a lot of stuff the hard way. And so I'm constantly trying to save the kids time. I think that's the big thing for me is like, look, I'm not telling you this because I think this way or the other way. I feel like I'm constantly learning and constantly trying to figure out things from other coaches and kind of, ciphering through it and going, all right, what's valuable, what's not. And for my guys, I'm like, look, I'm never telling you how to do anything. Like, this is what I learned. This is what I experienced. A lot of times it's just communicating to the player something that they can use. And so when we're talking to guys, it's like, okay, this might not make sense. Let's just put it another way. Or what are you thinking? What's your thought process? And one of the big things we do is like the mental stuff, like the mental side of all of it, where I tell them like, hey, if you're going through all of this, and this is with not just me, but like with their parents, with their coaches, I'm like, hey, if this isn't making sense to you, or a coach is telling you something that's not helpful, you nod, say yes or no, sir, in one ear, not the other.
Okay, brief intermission. We're going to cut this part. My mom is texting me. I can see it on my computer.
Mom, we're recording a podcast. I'm leaving that in there.
Vicky. She's like, she delivered a package to your apartment. She's like, Lord, I hope no one swipes it. Like, no one's taking your Pottery Barn package, Mom. That's her shout out because she got mad at me yesterday for mentioning everyone in my family but her. So,
hi, Vicky.
Thanks, Mom. Okay. Anyway, if you had to estimate how many athletes do you think you had that are playing in college right now?
Currently playing in college?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have a list. I think it's like 80, 85.
That's insane. How do you make time for all of them? Do you like get them into groups on like, I don't know, position, or like you said, you try to hit their lowest hanging fruit? Like, do you group them by that?
So I'll do all their programming from their throwing program to their strength conditioning program. When we first get them, like I'll spend time with them and get to know them. We go over like their goals for like the next month, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year, and then we make a calendar. And so I know where they are. I'm a little nuts. I know where they all are in their program. Like I have this book and it has all of them in it, and like I go through it and make sure I know. If I haven't seen a guy in a while, like we check on them and just make sure that like they know that we care. We're not like bugging them. We're just like, hey, how you been? You okay? Everything all right? A lot of what we do ends up, I tell everybody this, like 80% of what we do, it seems like, is not even physical. It's like handling expectations, processing like where they should be versus where they think they should be, or mom and dad are telling them they should be here, or their coach says they should be doing this. And so a lot of it's just like the mental side. So once we get their programming started, and our first 6 workouts are like more body weight, getting the body ready to handle getting under the weight, then from there, like they'll lift with a strength coach, they'll do speed work with our speed coach. Chaley's our yogi. Like we do yoga, and we have different hitting coaches, different pitching coaches. And I don't feel like I have to be the guy for everything, but if something comes up, like we have an open door policy. Like our doors are never locked, and so they can always come into my office. My door's always open. Or like if they want like one-on-one attention, that's what we tried to cultivate with the style of our training. Is it's not transactional. So it's not like, hey coach, can I work with you for a little bit? And it's like, yeah, here's for that, and then you only booked a half hour. Like we got away from that because sometimes you work on something for 20 minutes and they got it, and sometimes it takes an hour and a half. And so being able to dedicate that time to it is necessary. Baseball, softball, like sometimes it just takes time. And so we give them what they need to do going forward from there. and then try to give them enough tools to be dangerous in terms of like training themselves.
Yeah.
Like being able to like train, because we create a really competitive environment. So the guys all get really used to like, we're gonna fail, we're gonna, you know, we have big curtains they can pull if they need to fail a ton and they're kind of embarrassed about it. But really quickly they learn like, nobody cares. And so.
Yeah.
Where did you find like your staff and like people that match those type of values? Because I feel like you got a good bunch
really
over
lucky.
there.
I got really lucky. Those were probably like the most nerve-wracking conversations I had, was like calling these coaches that I really respected and was like, man, I got this idea, I got this place. Like, if I don't get them, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so I called Ryan A. Hart, he's my co-founder, and he's like the best infield guy I've ever seen. And I was like, look, I don't know anything about infield. So like I need you, or I don't know if this is gonna work.
Yeah.
And then I needed guys who didn't have an ego in the whole thing. And that was one of the things that we built with Chips, was because it's catching, hitting, and fielding, pitching strength. It wasn't going to be like Alex Hale baseball.
Yeah.
Like, because then somebody said to me, like, well, would you want to work at Tony Smith's baseball? And I was like, probably not. And so we wanted to build kind of like that Disneyland vibe of like, once you come in, it's like an experience.
Yeah.
And so that was really important to me, and taking care of our coaches. So like making sure that they feel valued. And like my assistant, I used to do daycare in baseball because the schedule worked really well, and my boss was awesome about letting me like go coach in the summer and all that stuff. And I loved doing that. So like, I always had energy when I got off work and I could go do things. But my assistant from my daycare days is my current assistant now.
That's awesome.
And she's like super into sports, and she's like really, really organized and can keep everything straight and does all of the things that I can't do. And so I needed complementary pieces. I didn't need another person necessarily like me.
Yeah.
I needed other people who were really good at what they did and didn't need to have like their name on the wall.
Yeah.
And so that was what we wanted to build, was something where we were all a part of it.
Did you know our name's on the wall?
Yeah, but you guys are doing a podcast. Like, it has to be. That's like our social media account. Like our social media is like.
With you. I didn't know that that's what Chips stood for, because I don't live in Omaha. And so when
you're good. We opened 8 months ago. You're fine.
Okay, but she was like, yeah, I got this guy. He's really good at what he does. But that's a cool little tidbit. That's a good name. I love when people have good names. Good thing
it was so
me and
hard
Meg
to come up with a name.
With one.
It was so hard. But you guys, like, a podcast needs to be your names. Like,
No.
it's like social media accounts for like, my social media account for baseball is like Swag and Shades. I didn't make that because I thought I was going to do anything with it. I made that because I wanted kids to have confidence, and I was thinking like a lot of it. So like, I want them to have confidence in spades, and I was like, or shades, because we were baseball. Yeah. And now it's like my handle on social media, and I'm like, oh, it's almost cringy, but like it kind of works.
Just almost.
Yeah. Almost.
That's
Almost
like people's
out there.
Snapchats. They made it in like 5th grade and
Right.
they still have it. I'm so glad.
You can change it now though, but people keep it because it's like a funny joke.
Yeah. I literally made mine in my like last name just without the last letter.
Yeah.
So it's Mickles.
I thought that was an accident.
No, I did it on purpose and I don't know why. Mickles.
Think you were quirky?
Yeah, 5th grade me really liked Mickles.
Okay.
So
That's way better than anything I used in 5th grade. For me, so.
Yeah, that's crazy. Snapchat came out when I was in 5th grade, and now I'm
Yeah.
23. It's a long
Snapchat's
time.
been around that long?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was in 4th, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same with Instagram was 4th for me, so 5th you.
I wasn't allowed to have it though till I was 13.
It's crazy.
So.
Also, this is like tangent, but like the kids I babysit or nanny and stuff, like their parents monitor their phones, or like you can't have a phone until here, or you can't have social media until you're in like 7th or 8th grade. I'm like, those things fully came out in 4th grade, and we were posting the craziest things with no one monitoring it.
Digital footprint goes crazy.
Yeah. Or like the people whose accounts they can't get into anymore and can't delete, and they have pictures of them just like with the craziest filters and emojis, and they're there forever. And no one knew that was going to be how that was going to work out for them. But
I was around for the invention of Facebook. My first year in college was when Facebook started.
what year was that?
That was 2004.
So I was 3
So
years old.
2004, 2005.
I was
I didn't realize it had been around that long.
It was because it was only for college kids when it came out. You had to have a college email. And
Then
so
what was MySpace for?
the other people.
The
like
non-college.
MySpace was
The people that were
MySpace was
cool.
like the Wild West. It was nuts. Facebook it felt like a cool college hangout online. It was like, and you kept in touch with all your high school friends, and you got to meet other people, and people were just posting like the most ridiculous statuses
It's
and
heinous.
stuff. It was, and everybody knew who you were talking about because everybody knew each other. Like, everybody knew each other.
I'm kind of glad we don't have a college Facebook.
That's
Yes, you
like
are.
Yik Yak, but it's like anonymous.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Yik Yak?
No.
So it's like fully anonymous. You log in and you can just post stuff and people can like up it, which means like, and you can dislike it. So if it gets like 3 dislikes, it gets deleted. So like I could sit here and just be like, write something about Maddie. And then if people agree with me, they'll like up it. And then the more ups you get, the further it goes up the page. So the more you see it, and then people can comment, but it's fully anonymous. So I could just start a rumor about
So it's
awful.
just like a bunch of trolls.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
literally, and I don't know why I ever got it because it hurt my feelings more than anything. But
Like, I feel like my feelings hurt today.
Like she's saying, like if it gets downvoted 3 times, it has to go to like -3. So even if it's been upped 500 times, if Meg's sitting there just downvoting it, it's not going to go anywhere because it has to go all the way back down to -3. So luckily they started monitoring that, and if it's like, if AI picks up, it's like a person's name, it automatically gets deleted.
Oh, that's good.
Before that, it was a free for all.
Yeah.
You used to have to list your top 8 friends on Facebook.
Well, Snapchat, you
People would
used
get,
to
like,
see your
moved
top 3.
around. Yeah, like people moved around like off the list.
you break up with your girlfriend,
Beefing.
boom, off the list.
The girls were vicious with it because they'd have
I
all
can
their friends,
imagine.
and they would like let each other know where they stood and move them down. It was wild.
Yeah.
I just think that stuff's so interesting.
Yeah, we just got on a big social media
I
tangent.
think Snapchat should bring back showing other people your top 3 best
No.
friends. That caused a lot of drama, and I thought it was funny. So,
Yeah, cause drama and I didn't like it.
well,
Well,
as
each one
someone-
of them's so different too. Like with Snapchat, like TikTok, Instagram, like Twitter, they're all just like,
Oh, I
because we're
love Twitter.
navigating them now with like our social media stuff, and it's like Instagram we kind of got figured out now.
Yeah.
And like TikTok, it's like, okay, I don't know,
Yeah.
like back to the drawing board.
What's your favorite?
Right now, Instagram.
Okay.
So that's the one that's been the most successful for us lately. So
Yeah. All right, that's the end of our social media.
Okay, back
tangent.
to coaching. So Danny Wallace, he's gonna be on the show tomorrow.
okay.
Tell us about him. Like, what does he do? What makes him so special that he is one of the top high school players in Nebraska?
He's one of the top high school players in the country.
That
He
too.
is.
He's that guy.
He's a different mover. He's a different mover. Like you don't have to tell him how to do it like exactly. You can just kind of give him a ballpark idea, and he'll be like, "Oh, okay," and like it's kind of wild. Like he's able to do things on a field that are not normal, but they're normal to him, and it's very unique. And like he wanted to go to Oklahoma State, and a year before he committed, we were talking about it, and he was like, I really want to go there, and they were just more selective. They were like, we're not in a hurry to offer everybody. And then the rules changed so that like while we were right into the travel season, they changed. So then they couldn't talk to him until August 1st. And so we had a sit down discussion. It was like, okay, he's like, what do I need to do? And I was like, okay, so you might be able to handle this. So we'll go over it. And it was, if you get a 3-1 count and there's a person on second, well, now if you get walked, you can't steal second. So that doesn't do you any good like on the travel ball circuit. So if you can reach the ball, even if it's a ball, and foul it off to get another pitch, that's what you're going to need to do. First tournament, he did it. Like he like picked it up and just went nuts. And we were like, okay, yeah, this is going to work. And I mean, coaches would come to his game as a freshman in the fall and summer, and they'd be like, hey, who's here to see Danny? And they'd look around, they go, within like 30 seconds, they'd be like, oh, there he is. Like it was just how he moved, how he did things, and he's a really good kid, so it makes everybody roots for him. Like he's a likable kid. He's last one in the dugout, picking up trash. He's really polite to everybody. He's got confidence. Like he's a confident kid, but it's not like he doesn't need to tear anybody else down to like bring himself up. And so that's one of the things that makes Danny really likable. He's got kind of an infectious personality, and it makes it easy to coach. The only thing I ever had to do with him was he'd be pitching and batting third, and there'd be a foul ball, and he'd be the first one out of the dugout to go get it. I'm like, no. The rest of you, this is what you're doing wrong. You're letting him go get the ball. Like, why are you letting him do that? And so he has a lot of feel. That's one thing we talk about with our guys, is like making them like as aware as we can. And I can always tell, or you can always tell guys that I've coached, because if I've had them for a while, they become very hyper aware, like about what's going on in the field. We always had a picture every year where like I'd be on the mound and somebody'd be taking a picture, and they would see the person taking the picture, and they'd all like pose. And it was like, some people, we posted online sometimes and people didn't like it, but I was like, I liked it because our guys were loose. They were competitive, they were loose. They knew the boundaries they had to work within. And it was like, hustle is non-negotiable. You can't throw your stuff. You can't, yell at an umpire. Like, I'll handle all that stuff. But like, for you guys, you got to play the game the right way. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about like all the teams I've coached, is getting them to that point and trying to teach them how to be competitive, what to worry about. That's something I always tell guys, like, I will tell you what to worry about. You just play.
Yeah.
So
I interviewed Christian Moore yesterday after the Tennessee game, and I brought up that the team, they had a rough start to the game, 3 pitchers, 3 innings, and like, what did you guys do to calm down and bring yourself back? And he said, we just had to be loose and relax, and no one plays good when they're like all uptight and everything. And I think that's something that like people lose. Like, you get into a game like that where everyone's scoring runs. I mean, it's a long ball game, the entire game. You just have to stay loose. And I feel like if you teach that now and not the uptight while you're in travel ball, it translates to college.
Yeah, it's playing hard, playing the game the right way, playing to your best ability, not playing to the level you're playing or the team. I think that's one thing that gets lost with some teams where when they're younger, is like, oh, we're just playing this team, or oh, whatever. And I'm like, I don't even let my guys talk like that. Like, we're going to play one way, because that's what you need to learn to do at every level. You don't get to take days off in college. You don't get to take days off in pro ball. Like, getting them ready for that so that they're ready for it. And yeah, Christian Moore's a different animal. He can do. I went down to the LSU series, and it was just like, some of those guys, man, like those guys that'll get drafted this year, Christian and Billy Amick, and they have like probably 6 guys will go like within the first day or two, and it's like they're able to handle all of the stuff that comes with being a Tennessee baseball player, and that's very unique. And to have that many of them all together is wild. I think Vitello does a really good job with like handling the personalities.
Yeah. And Christian's a big personality.
Another Tennessee fella we met, Dalton Bargo. Got to coach him. He told us some stories about you too.
Oh no, Dalton knows me better than most people, so that's not good.
Yeah, he told us he was with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had nothing but good things to say. We're just messing with you.
So the sunglasses. He said, I'm like, what do we need to ask Coach Hale?
He was sitting right there.
Yeah, right there. He said, ask him about the sunglasses. Why does he never take them off? He was about to put money down. No, he wasn't. NCAA. That totally was not going to. He thought you were going to wear your sunglasses on the show.
I was fully prepared. If you asked me to, I was going to wear them. So, yeah.
He thought about it.
No, the sunglass thing. So the Swag and Shades thing started on Twitter because I wanted a social media that was just baseball. Like, I just wanted to be able to follow baseball stuff. I didn't want to have stuff with family photos and all this other stuff. And then I kind of started sharing my opinion on it, and people kind of agreed with it. And then it kind of turned into more than that. So then I got some followers and all that stuff, and then kind of realized that I had a platform to promote like a positive message that a lot of kids weren't seeing, while at the same time being real with them. Like, hey, these are the things you need to do. It's totally up to you if you do it or not. But the Shades thing was because when I got Dalton when he was 5.5. He told me he was 6.5.
Liar. Sounds like Dalton.
He made my 8U team, and me and my assistant coach was one of my best friends.
At 5.5.
Yes. So we had tryouts. We were the last team to have tryouts.
Okay.
My first year coaching, and me and one of my best friends were coaching this team together, and we both before the tryout said, "All right, you get one, I get one. No questions asked. You just get to pick them." And Dalton was my guy because I was like, I just love this kid. This kid's awesome. He was a little undersized because he was 5.5, and he was like, but he just like he talked like a baseball player. He acted like a baseball player because he'd been like the K-State bat boy, and so he'd been around it. And I was like, this kid's awesome. I was like, figure the rest out. Like, it'll be fine. And so then we're getting like indoor practices and all that stuff. And he goes, yeah, it's my birthday. And I go, oh, you turned 7? And he goes, 6. And I was like, Dalton, what grade are you in? He's like, kindergarten. I was like, I got 3rd graders on this team, dude. Like, but it was really fun. So I got to coach him for 3 or 4 years right away. And then they went off and played different teams. I coached some older guys, and it was, we always stayed in touch because it was just like, we just connected on stuff. And so, his journey has been crazy and awesome, and it's so cool to see him getting opportunities that he's getting because he did everything the right way. And I'll be the first. If he didn't tell you this, I'll be the first. His like we had this team of my 22s, so high school graduates, 22s. They were like brothers, and they gave Dalton such a hard time. They all gave each other a hard time, but they gave Dalton such a hard time. especially when he started to get really good, because they were like all really like you could tell they were all jealous, and they were just like always like trying to like make the same jokes they made when he was younger. And he was just a kid who kind of grew late. He's still growing, and it's like it's just wild to see him getting rewarded for all of that. And I think that's why, you know, how can you not be romantic about baseball when you see, you know, he's getting ready to come to the tournament, hits 2 home runs, and then they come in here and he gets to be, you know, a part of that. And it's, you know, all the things that come with it, all the pressure and all the expectations, but that's the reward. You know, pressure's a privilege. And so getting to be out there and doing that is awesome to see. But I mean, he's done it for a long time. I used to have to read him the dugout signs. I tied all their shoes, but like I had to, he'd be like, what's that say? And I said, it says no sunflower seeds. He's like, oh, okay. And his like feet would be like dangling and stuff.
What was it, if he's still growing, or you're saying that like his friends would pick on him, what was his size comparison at 5.5 versus a 3rd grader?
So 5.5, he was smaller for sure. Because we had there's some bigger, but there's like growth years with kids. And he was always like good enough sized, so like it didn't really stand out. And then the next year he played 8s, and then we played 8s again. So he was 7, and then we went up to 9s. I took him with our team, so he was playing as a 9. He was 8, but he understood the game, and he was fine. Like by then, like when he was only playing 1 year up, he was fine.
Yeah.
But then as they got older, all the other guys hit their growth spurts and hit puberty first, and so he was like going into freshman year like really reliant on his skill as a baseball player, because he couldn't just like overmatch guys. Yeah. And then when he did start to grow in like his like sophomore year, junior year, then it was like, oh, now he's got it. Yeah. And then now he's still like getting like his body's still getting more put together, like his shoulders getting broader. Like you can just see his like changes in like both his parents were like late growers. And so like that was something we talked about, was like just being patient with yourself, like things you can't control. And I mean, now he's a mutant, but like I mean, he was like his ability to be on time and hit like pitches the other way, like as hard as he does. The ball he hit at Auburn was like down and away, and he just like flicked it like straight out to left. Was just like wild. Yeah,
he's awesome. That's a good story.
Did you guys get him talking a lot? He can get kind of quiet.
He warmed up by the end.
Yeah. At first he was kind of quiet.
Also, like when you're in a room with Christian Moore, like you can't talk anyway.
Oh, they're together?
He's just yelling.
There's no space in the room.
Yeah.
That's funny.
They're just like onlookers. And then he's witty, though. He'll chime in and say something that you wouldn't expect, but the joke always lands.
So Coach Des connected us together. We had one of your athletes on before. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he was on one of our other podcasts. I met Coach Des. Oh, it was the wrestler who has never lost a wrestling match. Or he was his wrestling coach. He doesn't work out with you. But
the heavyweight guy.
Yeah,
he's a heavyweight. He's like never lost.
Never lost a...
Tyson.
Yeah.
Yes.
He has never lost a wrestling match his entire career, and he's playing football at Nebraska now.
Yeah. Well, is he playing there or is he going to play there?
Going to play there.
Yeah.
I think because he's graduated.
Right.
Yeah. So he's going to play there. But so I got Coach Des' number, connected with you. How is Coach Des? I feel like he's another big personality.
He's just one of those guys that does it the right way. Like, he brings value to everything he does. And when we started, I got partnered up with him through one of my players, Eamon O'Gorman, and I was like, he came in for like one speed training session, or he worked out Eamon while I was there, and I was like, we got to have you here. Like, I don't know what we got to do to figure that out, but like, we got to have you here. You're like a culture builder. And he brings stuff to the table that like I've never thought of. So like one thing was like, we got to respect the dojo. And so as guys get done, everything is spotless when they're done, because he makes everybody pick it up. And like, it became the culture. Like at our facility, we don't have to put stuff away. Like we don't have to put baseballs away. We don't have to pick up after the players, because they do it themselves. And a lot of that is because of Des, and because like of our college guys being back right away when we opened. They were like, no, like this is what we do. We pick up everything. Like we put it back where it goes. That's respecting the space and taking care of where we are. So
I think that just shows like you care what you do. I mean, my dad instilled that. My dad has a hitting facility where we're from, and it was, you leave it how you found it. And you should have found it clean. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a winner mentality.
Yeah,
that's how you create that culture that you want in the dugouts. Those are the teams that then make it to the College World Series. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, it's like win, lose, or draw. Like you clean the dugout.
Yeah.
Like Especially if you lose. If you lose, you definitely got to clean the deck out. Like,
Don't want it to be embarrassed twice.
no.
So what inspired you to step away from playing the game and then wanted to move to coaching?
I don't know if it's inspired, but I lost all feeling in my right arm. So I have these 2 big surgeries, scars.
Damn.
I had radial tunnel syndrome, which is like the nerve that goes through a tunnel to your hand. Somehow it got disrupted. I didn't know what was wrong. I was supposed to get drafted. I still got drafted, but then I had to wait, and like they thought I had like my arm was dead or they thought whatever, but it had like locked up. And so I waited the whole summer. I had to go back to school for my senior year. And then they did the surgery, it was better, and then the scar tissue went into the nerve, so then I got drafted again, played pro ball for a little bit, and they did the second surgery, and I went out one day in spring training, and like it was gone, and that was it.
I'm sorry.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was rough. It
Yeah.
was rough.
I had no idea.
No, it was.
How does that affect you now with coaching?
I can take a pizza out of an oven without a glove. You shouldn't do that though because you still get burnt on your fingers. But I can still throw BP. I can still pitch to the guys. I just can't like if I throw a ton or if my arm gets like kind of sore, then it'll kind of pinch again and it'll like start to like do that. I can't really let go of the ball when I want to. It's like I'll get here and it'll just like won't let go. So then I'll hit the L screen or I'll throw it all over.
Interesting.
But when it's like not tired, like I can usually I throw a ton of BP.
Yeah.
Like I kind of had to figure out how to do that, but
Yeah.
playing catch is like literally my favorite thing in the world. So that was one very big concern. At the beginning, I learned how to play catch left-handed for a while.
That's what I was about to ask. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. It's over now.
Now you have this going for you. Tell us about your playing career. You went to Richmond and then got drafted, and you got drafted to the
Anaheim.
Yeah, I got drafted by the Angels and then didn't know I needed surgery. So we were waiting till we were talking about signing, but they wanted to see me healthy because I wanted more than they were offering for when I got drafted. Like the slot that I got drafted in, I wanted like 8th round money or whatever. And they were like, yeah, we're good. We just need to see you healthy. And I literally the whole summer I was just like waiting, and I'd go out and play catch and then it would do it again. It would like lock up. And I was like, okay. So then the next year I got drafted by the Red Sox and went and played and had like some weird things with that act up, and then went back into spring training, like felt ready to go. They'd done the second surgery. I was like, here we go. Did really well in the beginning, and they were like, hey, we're gonna have you like get to throw a little bit in like AAA camp, just kind of see it, how it goes, and probably go back to A-ball. And I was like, cool. And then right after that was like, went out that day, threw it over the fence, spiked it to the ground. I was like, I can't feel my hand. And that was it. 5 days later, I was home. I drove 25 and a half hours straight home
from Arizona?
Fort Myers to Nebraska. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, you had a lot of time
stop.
to think.
You should stop if you're going to drive that far.
You're talking to the queen of driving across the country.
Yeah. No, so I went the whole 25 and a half hours without like sleeping or stopping. Just kept going.
Yeah, I get excited. I drive from Arizona to Indiana quite frequently. That's where I go to school.
How far is that?
If you look at it on maps, it's like 24.
How far should it be? How long should it take you?
It's like 24 to 25, but it usually takes me about 30 because I stop and sometimes sleep in the car. Sometimes
though you should stop and sleep.
I always say I'm gonna stop and see my friends and like go through Denver and Omaha. I just get too excited. I just keep going. I don't know. It like once you start doing long drives, because I come from Indiana to Omaha all the time. That's 9 hours. I used to do it like once a month. And it feels like you blink and I feel like it's over. And people make the biggest deal about it.
It's like when you're studying for like exams.
Yeah.
Like at first you're like, oh my gosh, this is so tiring.
Yeah.
And then you like get conditioned to it within like a little bit. Because we start driving our trips in the summer, and the first one I'm like, how was this so easy last year?
Yeah.
Like this is like 3 hours, I'm exhausted. And then by the end of it, it's like the 9 hour trip to Indianapolis. I'm like, this is cake, I got this.
No, it literally, it's like almost like training for a marathon. Like you start 3 miles, 5 miles, 12 miles, and then you're all of a sudden you can do it, but no problem.
Yeah, you kind of
me.
just get in the zone, kind of like get the music going. Or the
People are like, you listen to
look on tape.
podcasts, call your friends. I'm like, I literally just put my phone on shuffle and just start driving. It's kind of nice.
Do you want to talk about how you got recruited to Richmond? Because I feel like recruiting now is so different, especially after COVID, because I went to 3 colleges.
Where'd you go?
UW Green Bay.
Okay.
For a semester. And then I went
That's generous.
to Madison College, the junior college in Madison, Wisconsin. Okay. And then I came to Creighton. But in high school, getting recruited 2017, 2018, it was emails. You went to camps. If they would email you back if they're interested, not a lot of texting, not a lot of calling, a lot of emails. then when I already had these connections after my Green Bay adventure. So that was pretty easy. Just texted one of the coaches I trained with when I was younger, went there. But then Creighton was during COVID. So that was a whole shift of video, clips, email, calling, FaceTimes. Like you had to do all your, like if you couldn't go or they had COVID, you had to do your visit via FaceTime. Mm-hmm. Like it was crazy.
Like, all right, this is the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Smells really good. You're like, okay.
Lie. But Creighton, I came on my visit to Creighton during the College World Series. That they got me.
Yeah. So I went to Richmond during Halloween weekend. That's how they got me.
Who did we tell this story to yesterday? They were like, oh yeah, we had them come to Atlanta during St. Patrick's Day. Oh, it was who we had on yesterday. Yeah. He was like, yeah, and we told him it's like this all the time. And I'm like, at least it's Atlanta. It's warm. There's stuff to do, but.
It's so hot in Atlanta. It's so hot.
Yeah.
We have to go there all the time.
Well,
my shoes melted.
Perfect
when you're
game.
on the turf. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the guy that we had on the baseball.
Kevin.
Head of ops. Hurley.
Yeah.
I've been practicing. He's a guy. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. He knows. He's seen a baseball game, and I think has remembered every single pitch moment in his entire life.
There are people like that.
Yeah.
I know a couple of them, and it's like they'll go over a game that they were coaching, and they're like, yeah, I was calling this pitch, and I called this. I was setting him up for this, and I'm like, how do you remember
That's my dad. He doesn't know any of my friends' names, but he can tell you what happened back in 1990.
I'm so bad at names.
Yeah, well, your dad also said I was 5'4", so I'd like him to rethink.
She's taller than 5'4"?
She says she's 5'6".
I'm 5'6". I just went to the doctor.
Maddie's
short. 5'9", and I'm like 3 inches shorter than her.
We can check it after.
I'm deceptively tall, if that makes you feel better.
You are. Yeah. You are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My coach in college was like, I don't know, you're about 5'9", 5'10". I was like, bro, I'm 6'2.5". He's like, no. I'm like sitting down. So sitting down,
it's
I'm
your
huge.
stature gives like
sitting
short
down,
man.
my like upper body is huge.
Yeah.
Like my torso. They measured us with the Red Sox sitting and standing. Sitting, I'm enormous. I'm just like, it's so weird.
I got short arms. My wingspan is like 5 or 6 inches shorter than my height.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite inconvenient. Because people are like, oh, you're tall. Can you get this off the shelf? I'm like, my arms don't go that far. Your arms, we can check our arms too.
Yeah, I have long arms. I think mine's like 2 or 3 inches longer than what I am.
We were in playing basketball. We run around with the Creighton basketball players hanging out like on the show and whatnot. And they had their media day still up on the wall. So they were like, oh yeah, Maddie, let's see your wingspan. And I was like, this is going to be bad. And that's when I found out. I knew they were bad, but I did not need that confirmation.
Back to recruiting.
So, I tell the guys, you got to watch out for the Omaha curse. The Omaha curse is you want to go to all of the College World Series schools. And that's like where you're focused on. So I wanted to go to big schools. I also there was none of the stuff out that there's not. Like we just started like PG showcases and all that stuff. And back then they were like brutal. Like if you weren't good, they'd let you know. And so if you got to like a 9 out of the like 1 through 10, if you got to a 9, like you were starting at a D1 school as a freshman. Like, and now it's like, they'll give 9s to guys who don't play for their high school team. Like it's wild. And so it was different back then. But when I was going through it, I heard from a bunch of schools, but I thought like, okay, I got plenty of time. And I didn't start all that until I was a junior. And so my junior year, I was playing in high school. I got Gatorade Player of the Year and then went to the area code games. And so I was getting more heavily recruited by like Baylor and Richmond and all these other schools. But the one I always think about was this little engineering school in Nashville kept calling me. And I was like, hey, they got this new coach. They're not very good. They're in the SEC, but like they're like 24 and 25. So that was Vanderbilt. Tim Corbin was the new coach coming in. And they invited me on a visit, and I was like, I told my dad, I was like, I don't want to be the doormat of the SEC. The next year, they were 42 and 10. And I was like, ooh, might have missed that one. But it was the Omaha thing because Richmond had been in a super regional. They'd played Nebraska. I was at the games. Like, I was like, I know who they are. And that was one of the big things that I looked at.
Thanks, Coach Hale, for coming on. Great podcast, lots of fun talking points, and we're so excited to share it with y'all.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Like we did yesterday, we're going to cover the rest of the media conferences, give you a little pregame previews of what's going on today.
So the first game today is NC State versus Kentucky. NC State is coached by Elliott Avent, and this is his 28th season in their 4th ever College World Series. Players to look out for. Pitcher Ryan Moran with a 4.2 record and a 3.97 ERA. And Sam Heifel with a 7.2 record and a 5.06 ERA. Those are their two aces they have. And then some position players to look out for. I'm already going to murder this last name. So Alec Markowitz.
I think that was right.
And Garrett Pennington, who will combine for 40 home runs on the whole season and have batting averages of a 3.80 and a 3.48. They're excited to be back here.
Yeah, Coach Avent, this is his third time here. Super nice guy, down to earth. He's a little bit older, gives like sweet, tender grandpa. So he was sharing lots of cool stories at the media day. And probably my favorite story I think I've ever heard in a media conference, and especially just like it makes sense why Omaha is so special. He was saying that he was telling his friend, like, he overuses the word like the greatest. Oh, you always say this is the greatest movie, the greatest place you've ever been, the greatest this, the greatest that. He always says that. And Coach Avent was like, no, Omaha is the one place you can oversell, and you will still undersell it. And then he was like asking his players about it, and they were like, Coach, it's better than I've ever imagined. And I was just like, that's so special. It's just truly such a special place.
That is. Now, regional never made it, but now they did. This is history for them.
Yeah, super exciting stuff.
This is Coach Ming's 8th season with Kentucky. We have some people to look out for as well. Trey Poser with a 7-1 record and a 3.46 ERA. And then at the plate, Nick Lopez, mustache man.
Yeah.
I wonder what color it's going to be today, blue or white.
I would bet blue. I don't know, though.
He had white one time, but I think
blue.
it's
going to be blue. Big Blue Nation.
Yeah. Has to match the jersey. Yeah. He is batting .350 with 76 hits, and Ryan Waldschmidt, who is hitting .346.
All right. In the press conference, Coach Mings was joined by Daly and Hummel. Daly was a transfer from Texas. He's been to the College World Series actually before. And Hummel is a transfer from a D2 school. And head coach Mings was saying, like, no offense to Hummel, but when he was once Hummel entered the portal, Mings was like looking at his footage and stuff, and he was like, no offense to him at all, but sometimes in his games, he'd look up in the stands and there'd only be 7 to 8 people in the stands watching this kid. And they have stepped up to the plate and been two amazing different characters from two completely different walks of life, different college journeys. And it's awesome to see them get to this one point, and that especially someone like Hummel, who's never seen a big stage, who's stepped up in the regional, the super regional, and then now gets to perform in front of thousands after coming from a D2 school. It's a really fun story. I'm excited for him.
That's a really cool story. Now for Texas A&M and Florida, game 2 of the day, game 4 overall. This is the Aggies' 8th College World Series.
Miss Wisconsin.
Yeah, I exaggerate every single A.
Aggies.
And E. Aggies.
The
This is the Aggies' 8th College World Series and Coach's 3rd season with A&M. They have Evan Ashbeck with a 6-1 record and a very impressive 1.66 ERA. They also have Chris Cortez with a 9-3 record and a 2.83 ERA, which sounds so unimpressive after that, but is still unbelievable. Position players to look out for is Hayden Scott and Jace LaVoilette, who combined for 36 home runs on the season and having batting averages of a 3.31 and a 3.14.
The Texas A&M guys are quiet guys. We were interviewing them. They know what they're here to do. I don't know if they're shy. They are not very loud, but their baseball is. So I'm just excited. They're here all the time. I feel like I've been at the College World Series for 3 years now, and they're here often. So I think they know what they want to do.
I agree. Now for the Gators, this will be their 14th College World Series appearance, and they're hungry after last year. Their coach is in his 17th season, and on the mound they are led by two-way superstar utility, some might say, Jack with a 3-1 record and a 5.17 ERA, which that's high, but you also have to think about that man is getting behind or at the plate. He is pitching, he is hitting, he is playing first base. They utilize him in the outfield. That man does it all. He has
Yeah.
to focus on so many other things than just pitching.
Yeah, and the media is stopping him every chance they get. So I'd be
You
overwhelmed.
should hear the kids in the crowd on media day. All you heard was, I felt so bad for the other players, but Jack, sign my ball. Sign Jack right here.
Well, even in the press conference, they were only asking Jack questions. I was like, I feel bad. There's so much going on.
So much going on.
But
yeah, I'm excited.
they didn't really say much in the press conference. All the questions were towards Cags, what he's got on his mind. And all they have to say is they have a sour taste in their mouth after last year, chip on their backs. They're ready to complete what they couldn't last year. So I'm excited for them, excited for day 2. And that wraps up the Meg Maddie Show for today.
If you're hungry, stop by Let It Fly for all your meal needs.
Or
all your
drinks.
drink needs.
Yeah. Thanks again to Coach Hale for coming on, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.